What is up, Fanatics? It's 8 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time for another episode of Home Theater Fanatics. Tonight is episode 112, and we've got a great episode for you. And I'm not going to tell you right now what it is. Going to focus on, you might be able to tell, but we've got Roger Fortier from HIFIMAN with us tonight. Welcome to the show, Roger. How are you, sir?
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Giles. Nice to see you.
Oh, I'm super stoked to have you here. I mean, you guys make some of the craziest, coolest, most awesome headphones I've ever experienced. And I love it when folks come on that, work with brands and products that I actually use. And, I've got these and I love these. And these are even like the lower end stuff. I mean, these aren't even like your cool ones, but they're still really cool. And these have some features that I want to talk about in a little bit that I think everybody will love. But we'll get to that. I think the first thing, though, is there might have been one or two people out there that don't know the brand and maybe who you are specifically. So maybe let's jump in with who's Roger and why do we care?
Well, most people don't, but that's beside the point.
Yeah, nobody cares about me. So they're like, who's that dude?
Exactly. Oh, I've been in the business for most of my life, actually, in one way or another. My father was a radio and TV repairman, so literally I was, brought up around tubes and things of that nature. But I worked in Southern California for quite a few years in both retail and audio business and in the custom installation business, and then moved over to the East Coast to work for a high-end company, Magical Audio Labs.
Oh, right on. Very nice.
Yeah, did Proceed in Levinson and Revel speakers. I was a national sales manager for Revel for a while.
Oh, that's awesome.
And after Harman took over and moved the company, I bounced around with a couple different companies like Krell and Martin Logan and a couple other companies. Ended up switching over to the pro side and started working with a company called Adam Audio.
Oh, yeah. Everybody knows Adam Audio.
Yeah, and so I worked with them. I was president of Adam Audio USA for about 7 years. And then from there, I kind of semi-retired for a little while.
Apparently, that didn't suit you very well.
Did not suit me very well. It seemed like I needed to do something. Then I ended up having a conversation with a gentleman by the name of Dr. Fong Beng, and he is the CEO of HIFIMAN. We had a good conversation, a couple of really good conversations. Made me an offer that I thought would be interesting and decided to come on board.
Oh, that's awesome.
Where I am now.
Right on. So how long have you been with HIFIMAN now?
HIFIMAN now about 3 years.
Okay. All right. So you got some time under your belt. It's not like a new thing.
No.
That's cool.
The headphone thing was kind of a new thing for me because I had been mostly in two-channel audio as pretty dominantly and then into also projectors and home theater. But I found that this was kind of exciting. It was a new field, and I quickly got to enjoy it quite, very, very quickly.
Oh, that's great. And, I dabble in all the different things. We were just talking about this before the show started. And, the whole concept of headphones and listening to music with this kind of equipment, as opposed to, speakers on the other side of the room, it's a really different kind of thing. And, I know there are folks that are out there that haven't jumped into headphones and really haven't given it a try yet. And to those folks, I say you should give it a try because it's going to make, bring music to your ears in a way that you haven't experienced before. And some people like it better and some people don't like it as much as the traditional speaker experience, but it's, to me at least, a different experience. So it's kind of cool. And maybe we'll talk about that more later, but I think let's say hi to a few people that have jumped up and joined us today. Hi-Fi Haven, he's here in Colorado with me. Welcome back to the show. Good to have you on with us. I love the intro too. It's fun. It's like a nice pop-up kind of good music. Mad Piranha has joined us. He's here every week. Good to see you again, sir. And then from overseas, from Suzhou, I think I say that right. I don't know. Herman, he's slowly working through his home theater build, and it's an exciting project. And he's putting in some good gear there. I hope to one day be able to go over and film that and put it up on the big screen. I don't know. I'll record it at an anamorphic widescreen aspect,
There
so
you go.
235:1. None of that 16:9 for you. You get the good stuff. Audio Architects has joined. That's Mike. He used to live really close to me, and then I guess he decided he was too close, so then he moved up to Denver. So he's like 45 minutes away. But he's another person like me that creates content and does stuff like this. So Mike, welcome. Magical Paradise is here with us. And then the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend, Catman, Mr. Cat, or Adam. I mean, whichever way you want to say it. And then we also have a mystical person that we don't know who it is. We'll just call you Facebook user. What's going on, Facebook user? They know me, apparently. I'm doing well. And I think I'm going to be doing a little bit better when we talk about HIFIMAN. So HIFIMAN, what's the deal with HIFIMAN? What are the products that HIFIMAN produces? What are they known for? If you had to kind of take the brand and condense it down so people can get it like that, what is it?
Currently, what HIFIMAN is really known for is what they call magnetic planar speakers or headphones. It's what you're wearing right now. A conventional, thank you very much.
You like that?
A conventional driver, which is what we're all very familiar with, is a paper cone or aluminum cone or different metals with a magnet behind it and a signal causing the driver to move back and forth. That's been speaker manufacturing for just about as long as it can be. What happened with the magnetic planar is that we take a diaphragm and we stretch it out so it's a flat diaphragm, and we put magnets on both sides of it. Sometimes only on one side, but a lot of times on both sides. Run the signal down on the diaphragm, and as the signal becomes plus and minus, the magnets pull and push the diaphragm back and forth, and then gives you sound. It is something that is used in other technologies. Magnepans would be another example. It might be something along that line. And there are a couple other companies that use that same concept. So it's very viable. What HIFIMAN did that was a lot different is Fong, who's the CEO, got to the point where he started using what we call nanotechnology. So the diaphragm that's actually sitting inside your headphones that you're using right there is so thin that if you were to take the diaphragm and turn it sideways, you couldn't see it.
Oh, nice.
It's literally just measured in nano measurements. So being that thin and being able to make the diaphragm really stretched out stiff between them gives us the ability to move it back and forth without a lot of wasted energy. And that gives the HIFIMAN one of the reputations that we have.
Right on. So the magnetic planar headphones, then, I guess that's the yin to the yang. So a traditional headphone, is it called a dynamic?
Correct. Yeah,
right.
It's a dynamic driver. And it's basically what it is. It's a driver, if you imagine, that's just pushing air, pulling air like this, creating sound. That's what basically sound is, just a movement of air, obviously. So a dynamic driver will be doing this back and forth. A magnetic planar will be sitting there and the entire diaphragm moves like this, back and forth. The difference really comes is most dynamic drivers usually have a sealed cabinet behind them to create air pressure. So if the driver moves forward, the air wants to pull it back because it's creating a vacuum. If it goes back this way, it wants to push the driver forward. And you use that dynamics to create a better sound with the driver. With a magnetic planar, you're really very difficult to put anything behind it because it's going to affect the diaphragm because the diaphragm is so light. So it's open, like yours is open. And what allows the sound to come out the back as well as at the front and allows the diaphragm to move more freely.
Right on. Okay. We have a question, and I think maybe we can direct Adam to where would Adam find Arias in Minnesota? Do you have like a dealer list on your website where you can find that?
Check the website and ask customer service. They'll end up taking your email and sending it back to me, and we'll try to find you a place over there. I'm not sure if I have anybody in Minnesota at this particular time.
Now, do you? So let me pull up the website too.
Yeah.
Let me share this out so people can see this, because they might not know what your headphones even look like. So let's see. All right, there we go. HIFIMAN. All right, they're the HE400 SEs. Those look good too. That they look good in black. They're kind of like the ones that I have on, but in a black color, at least aesthetically. So if you go into products here, let's see what's happening. All right, you've got. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, if he had to go to the website here, he could go to the about phrase, and then they would go down down lower, and you would be able to find both customer service emails and some dealer that we can help you with.
Right on. Oh, I see. Yeah, cool. Yeah, all the accolades. I love Wired Magazine, by the way. Those guys are cool.
They're great people.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so let's take a quick look then. Since I've got this up, let's work through the product portfolio just a little bit so folks can kind of see what's going on. And let's see. Now, there are things listed as reference and premium. That's not like a line. That's just kind of a way that you guys have stuff subdivided here. Is that right?
Kind of, yes. Yeah, exactly. On the reference line, it's pretty much how do I want to put this? The peak of what what we're building in different categories. So, for example, the very first one you see there is an R10P. It's the only true magnetic planar in a closed back that we've been able to build. We've always had problems in the decade that we've been trying to do this, and it's been a major issue because of the pressure behind the diaphragm. This is something that Fong was able to develop. When we listen to it, it gives you a lot of the sound that the magnetic planar has, but it gives you the additional bass and things that you would want. It doesn't have the same openness that your headphones have, because it's closed from behind. But it makes a hell of a close back. Next to that is the Shangri-La Senior and Shangri-La Junior, a little bit farther on. Those electrostatic headphones. Same concept as what you're using, just designs differently as far as how the diaphragms work.
Right.
The one in the middle is the Susvara. That's the top of the passive electromagnetic planar headphones. Then we get down, as you get down a little bit low, we also get into DACs. We do make Fong designs DACs, designs small amplifiers, does IEMs, different types of headphones. It's a passion with him, so he's really got himself into a whole lot of different categories. He was actually starting to build audiophile MP3 players when the Walkman was out. So he was one of the very first ones to build an audiophile MP3 player.
So yeah, one thing I want to talk about is, and this is interesting. Let me pull this off, and I'm going to make myself big. And one of the challenges that I've always had with headphones is I've had to have a lot of different ones because there are so many different things that I want to do with them, right? I want to have a set of headphones that I can, that are my critical listening headphones. And I want to have a set of headphones that are my travel headphones. And then I want to have a set of headphones that are kind of like my work headphones that I use for conference calls. And I want them to have Bluetooth and all that kind of stuff. So I ended up with all these different pieces around. But one thing that you guys do that I think is cool, and I can't recall seeing this done anywhere else, but this is like a standard passive magnetic planar headphone, right? And I just have it plugged in. But there's a thing called the Blue Mini that is a module that clips onto the bottom of the headphone, and it holds a technology stack, right? So that's got like all the guts for Bluetooth and a microphone and all those things. That's it right there. Perfect. Right. And that the top flange kind of fits into this little divot right here, and it just clips on, and it's got
something like this, and it just slides right into place.
Exactly. And what that does is that carries all the technology. So you can take and use this as a critical listening headphone. But then if you want to, have a conference call, or you want to take these on the road. I'm, they're open back, so I don't know that they're the best travel headphone because other people are going to hear what's going on, right? That's why those close backs are kind of cool, right? Because
Exactly.
they're more travel worthy. But I find myself taking the Blue Mini, slamming up into this guy, Bluetoothing with my phone, and then I can listen to music, and then when I get a conference call from work, I can flip that in too, and it just sounds wonderful.
It's a great way of doing it. It is basically the way I think the industry is going to go. In the case of the devas like you have on there, the nice thing about it is like you said, you got a wire, so you can actually plug it in an amplifier
Mhm.
and get the maximum performance out of the headphones. But it's easy to remove that, put the Bluetooth in there. And the Bluetooth is a high quality unit. And with the new codecs that are available, like LDAC and all these Apex HD and that, you can broadcast 2496 to the headphones.
Right.
So if you're streaming, different types of streaming services that are giving you high quality audio, you can just stream it right straight to your headphones. So you're not restricted to a desk anymore. You can go and cook, you can do some projects, and you can have your headphones on and listen to it. If you really think about it for a minute, almost anybody who's 40 years old or under has some type of headphone.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Totally.
it came with phones, it came with somewhere, but they got some type of headphones. And most of those were designed to be wire free.
Mhm.
And so this is just a natural progression to take, instead of taking the really cheap stuff, start working on the more high quality stuff and making them wire free.
Yeah, and the difference between this kind of thing and maybe, an inexpensive set of Bluetooth earbuds is that this actually sounds really good.
Thank you.
It sounds really good. And, I used to really hate on Bluetooth. I mean, I used to, I was like, if you want to listen to music, Bluetooth is not the right way to go. It sounds so bad. But nowadays,
It's a
all the
huge
kids are
difference.
doing it, right? This newfangled, they took Bluetooth and made it into a useful codec that actually sounds all right.
Yes, it does. You're absolutely right. When Bluetooth first came out, it was so compressed. There was such a the codecs were just so limiting in the amount of information it could pass through that it sounded like a really truncated sound. There was no quality to it. There was no dynamics to it. It was like the old CDs.
Oh yeah.
That's really what's limited. But with today's technology, they're still using the same bandwidth, but the way they're encoding it and decoding it, you really get a tremendous amount of performance out of a Bluetooth. And unless you're, like you said, critical listening and looking for all the little details in that, the Bluetooth can carry you without much of a problem. The
Yeah. I mean,
really only issues you have left is trying to have enough power to drive the unit properly. Okay,
understood.
because
Yep.
headphones do require power. And depending upon the design of the headphones and how much they're requiring in power, can make the Bluetooth apparatus difficult to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. I find myself not being sad when I have to go mobile and use the Bluetooth now. And I listen to the music, and for the most part, if you're moving around and you're doing things, it sounds wonderful. It I to tell a difference. I mean, it gets to the point where maybe you have to be 15 years old with brand new ears, you know, and, to even tell the difference. Um, I don't know. I'm closing in on 50, so I don't know. I'm almost into my MP3 years, I guess you'd say, where where it doesn't where it's all good, whatever. Just give me the crappy Apple ones. But no, I'm actually super enthusiastic about the technology now. And when it's time to travel again, yeah, I look forward to being able to, pick up a new pair of headphones and then take an international trip and be on the plane for a long time and then just, take I don't know, take 10 hours and you've got nothing to do except listen to your music, right? And you
Right.
can really dig in and see how they treat you. And I don't know, I love that kind of stuff. A lot of people are like, "Oh, I hate traveling, you're on the plane for so long and blah, whatever." But for me, I try and take it as an opportunity to do something that I might not have the time to focus on And headphones and music is something awesome. I mean, I just love it.
Yeah, it is. It's very, very good. I mean, people do have their own opinion. I think part of the problem in the past was the most of the conventional drivers, and I'm not putting them down, but the older headphones made the sound come from the middle of your head, and that made a lot of people uncomfortable because you don't listen to somebody that's singing in the middle of your head. Uh,
Right.
but over the years, both conventional drivers, technology, and the people who designed those headphones, and the open magnetic planar takes that image away from the center of the head. So it starts to get wider and wider and wider, and it becomes much more comfortable to listen to than it
Yeah.
used to be. And I think that's made a big, big difference.
And I think you've touched on something that people that aren't into headphones probably don't know, because I think their experience is likely limited at that point, right? You put the headphones on and there's no imaging. It doesn't approach the experience that you would have with a really nice stereo image set of speakers that you might have in your home. And so they discount it, right? They're like, this isn't anything that is of a high enough quality that I would be interested in. But it's different now. I mean, I would challenge anybody to sit down and listen to what your Sisvaras
Right.
and and say that wasn't a meaningful experience, right? I mean, they're going to listen to that and they're going to be like, oh my god.
It is. You know what the funny thing, and I was talking to somebody about this just a couple of days ago, and we were talking about how the shows, like the Can Jam shows, where
Hmm.
it's headphone orientated, and the two types of people I deal with are first is the younger crowd because they know that there's a better sound out there, especially with the new streaming service. They recognize that it sounds better with what they have. Gee, what it would be like if I had something better. So they're all excited about having better quality sound or better sound. But the other group that I was really surprised at is the people who had a home, a big home, had a big stereo system. Years have gone by, families moved out, they're downsizing. Most of them have sold their stereo system and they still want good sound. And a lot of them, I find that Can Jams are going around and looking for really good headphone amps and really good headphones.
Right.
And
Yeah, that
they
makes sense.
literally make a nice system sitting on a shelf and they plug in their headphones and they can listen to music without taking up all the space they don't have anymore.
Right on. And with something like this, they can, approximate what they were getting out of their Magnapans that they had, right?
Yep. Yep.
That
They come back and they love it. There are a number of headphone amps. First one that comes to mind is a company named Aris, and they make a headphone amp that has two. They can drive two headphones simultaneously. And a lot of customers were plugging both headphones into that. So it was a his and hers type setup. And
oh,
people
that's
listening
kind of
to their
cool.
favorite headphones.
That is kind of cool. I've
Yeah.
never thought about that. One thing I do want to point out, and a couple of people have called it out already. I'm trying to find it in the. I mean, Adam just posted this up. He said that the Deva, or well, how do you say Diva or Deva? Deva,
Deva.
right? Yeah, the
Yeah.
Deva for $299, and then Hi-Fi Haven also called out the price tag. And so, yes, the expensive stuff that you guys sell is pricey. $6,000 for a set of headphones. That's not for everybody, but these
They're great.
for
They're
300
absolutely great.
bucks, I would take and put this up against anything two, three, four times the price. I'll put this up against a $1,500 head set of headphones any day of the week, and I think people would be hard challenged to hear any appreciable difference. I mean, these are really good, and they're also comfortable. And I've got a big, humongous head and big ears, and these can get all the way around my ears. Now, some people are like, they're really big. Well, they are pretty big, but I really like that. Now, the one thing that I would change about these is, and it's not the aesthetic or the feel, but I think what looks cool are the headphones that have the metal thing around with like the leather strip that you can move up,
Okay. Yeah.
like the one right behind you. I
Yep.
think that looks cool. And so that's the only thing. But this is more of the traditional slide it in, slide it out kind of headphone until you get it into the right spot with some nice padding up there. But yeah, these for the money, and then if you go with the Blue Diva or the Blue Mini, I mean, you get the
Yes.
technology stack too. And okay, here's another thing. I don't can you use the Blue Mini with the whole range at this point, or are you kind of building that into new models as they come out?
We're building those into the models as they come out. Like for example, and I'm just going to grab something here real quick. This right here is the R
Oh, look at that. I love it.
R10Ds, the dynamic ones,
Oh, I
uh,
love that.
and they have the ability to put the Blue Mini on this.
Mhm.
And it works. It works really well because they're fairly efficient headphones and they're easy to drive. So we designed that to do this. We also did it on the R10Ps, which are the expensive planar version.
Right.
But truthfully, those are hard to drive. So it is a something you can use, but it really doesn't make the speakers or the headphones perform the way they should.
Right.
So that's really the biggest critical issue that we have right now is being able to drive the panels depending upon the headphones that you're using. You can't have an inefficient headphone and use that. It won't do it. It just doesn't have the power to do it.
That
That
makes sense.
said, Fong is definitely working on some things coming up that may change a lot of that in the future. But we are slowly working into the point where we are putting Bluetooth in a lot more of our headphones as an option.
So one thing that I really like is the concept of upgradability, right? And I mean, this is not only in headphones but across other products as well. As an example, it's like AVRs in the home theater world, so audio video receivers. As new technology comes out, the new version of Dolby, the Atmos, and that kind of stuff, that they're not necessarily upgradable, so they become kind of throwaway devices, and you have to go buy a new one. And when you think about a headphone and Bluetooth technology, if I'm going to put just like 6 grand, 5 grand, 4 grand, 2 grand into a set of headphones, I really like the idea that that technology stack is removable and replaceable, right? Because you guys can come out with Blue Mini 3 or the Red Mini or the Super Ferrari Mini or the Maxi or just whatever, right? The new version that just talks telepathically back to your amplifier. I don't, but the headphone, that technology, you don't have to reinvest into that in that scenario. You can just take the dongle and pass that on. Here you go, Junior. Here's your dongle. I'm buying the new big one, right? And click it
Right.
in, good to go. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, that's something that was definitely thought of at the time that it was designed, because we want to give that option as you're using right now, the cable option and then the Bluetooth option and the option to upgrade as time goes on. The Bluetooth chips are constantly evolving. The little mini amplifiers, Fong is always working on it. Some new technologies that's coming out in a couple of days from Fong on the DACs themselves will make this whole Bluetooth and plugging it in, bringing it to a whole new level. And you're right, it's nice to be able to do that and not have to throw everything away and start all over again.
So here's the feature that I want to see in a Blue Mini one day. I want to see a Blue Mini be a Rune endpoint.
What?
A Rune endpoint. Are you familiar with Rune? So Rune is
Yes.
yeah. So I want it to be a Rune endpoint. So when I want to listen to my headphones walking around, I want to be able to pull up my iPhone, pop open the Rune app, and then instead of like selecting living room speakers, pick Blue Mini, and it just straight into my head. That's what I want.
That's
Because I
interesting.
because I'm like all in for Rune, and that's how I listen to music all the time. So I have Rune, I have Qobuz, and then I have the different speaker sets in all the different rooms. But what I don't have is, other than, I guess I could do it directly from my iPhone and then Bluetooth to the iPhone. But what I would really like is just to have that built into the headphone receiver, right? Into the technology stack in the headphone.
Yeah, but does Roon operate on Bluetooth or on Wi-Fi?
It's Wi-Fi. So you'd have to
Okay.
have you'd have to put a technology stack in there that's, pretty much far beyond what's in there now.
Yeah, it
Absolutely.
would be a different design, but that's interesting. That's something I'm going to pass along
Right on.
because I
Right
think
on.
there is an opportunity there.
I would totally be interested in that. And then at that point, you're not, there are some people that I think have a bias against Bluetooth in any format, right? They're like, I don't want to use this at
Yes,
all.
absolutely.
Right. But when you've got Wi-Fi and it's a Roon endpoint, it's just the same as anything else. And I think people have bought into that. Okay, I'm going to stream from my Roon server to my endpoints, and I can do that in all the high res that I want to. And if you could just pipe it straight, anyway, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, that would.
So a few more comments here. The HE5 SEs, really good, some love there, along with the R2000s. And then Herman, let's see, he said he was disappointed with his Audi's iSign 20 earphones because it doesn't fit his ears. And I'm not familiar with those, but I can tell you right now, it is not fun when you have what I consider over the ear headphones, and then they just don't fit right, or your head's too big or something. And then when you get the IEMs, if the IEMs don't fit you well, I mean,
IEMs are really, really tough. I've got a number of them, and there's only one or two that fit well for me. And the others just don't fit right. They can't get a seal on them. Yet I can give them to a friend of mine, and they'll fit him perfectly. So it really does change. So unless you're actually doing a custom fit, then IEMs can be a tough thing.
Yeah, one thing I always notice with the IEMs is, okay, when I put on a nice set of headphones and I listen, I can move around and I don't hear a lot of stuff going on. And I can move my mouth and my jaw, and I don't, there's no impact. But with IEMs, I stick those in, and then, if I'm moving, it's like they're creaking. And then if I move my jaw, it's like my head makes sounds inside of my head. And I don't know, it's just, I've not found a pair that eliminates that issue. Now I've listened to IEMs that sound wonderful. I mean, there are IEMs that just sound, they kick butt, but that is one issue that I don't, maybe it's a me thing. I've never had anyone else talk about it, but it seems like I get all of this fit noise, or some kind of, maybe they're moving on the ear canal or something. I don't know, but there's something there.
Yeah,
there's something there that
I don't know. I do know that when you have them right, they're great. You don't have those effects. But if they're not 100% right, then yeah, I think a lot of people say the same thing. They just don't. You move and you're talking and you can hear your jaw clicking against them and things like that.
Exactly. Yeah. One thing I will say about headphones is, for me, a hard requirement, and I have to have it. And I don't know that I would buy a headphone for real music listening that doesn't have wired input. Right. I don't think I would go straight to I'm going to buy a set that only does wireless without this option. For me, this is super important because I want to, and I enjoy experimenting with different DACs, different amplifiers, trying out tubes and all that. I mean, it's a rabbit hole that you can go down in and have so much fun, and, and try to experience your music in, new ways again. So I have to have this.
Yeah, I agree. And that's one of the reasons that it was designed the way it was, because an amplifier always makes a big difference. A DAC makes a difference. You can't have the quality of a really good desktop DAC or a good desktop amplifier built into a tiny little module on your ear. That's for convenience. It's good quality sound, but it still doesn't add up to what you can do with a desktop amp.
Right. So let's talk about that for a minute. So my buddy Mike, he's on some type of, I don't know, soul search effort to find the perfect headphone amplifier, right?
Okay.
So what, when you think headphone amplifiers, what are the differentiators? I mean, when you're trying to select one, what do you want to pick? Like, I can talk about home theater amplifiers all day long, right? And say, okay, you got class A, class AB, class D, and you want to look for, different power levels into different ohm loads and all this kind of stuff. And I could talk about that for hours. But when I think about headphone amplifiers, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what am I looking for? Because, headphone speak is way different, because you're like 32 ohm headphones and, so what are the items in a headphone amplifier that you want to look at that are important? I don't know. I'm all like, it's got tubes or it doesn't. I don't know.
the mating of headphones and amplifiers is part of experimentation, for lack of
Mm-hmm.
better words. Headphones like yours are a bit more difficult to drive than, say, a conventional dynamic driver. Headphones that are really efficient can operate at very little power. Headphones that are not very efficient, um, like the 5SC that one of your listeners brought up, that requires a good amplifier to drive it because it's just a very low efficiency on that one. But what I found, and this is going to sound, I don't know how to put it, philosophical, so you can
Sure.
pardon me for a minute.
Oftentimes audio is.
What I find with people is people have different, music is emotion, okay, or headphones are emotion. It's what's the trigger for everybody. It's not, we'd all like to say it's the music that moves the emotion, but it may not necessarily be that. And in a lot of cases, I don't think it is. Music is part of it, but maybe it's the sound that excites you, or the clarity and the high frequencies, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's the bass that you've never heard before and you get attracted to, or any number of these things that, or there's a sense of realism, or there's a smooth sweetness to it. If you can see, I'm using all these words, but they're all different attributes that might trigger that emotion. And unfortunately, all the different amplifiers do the same thing. You take tube amplifiers in most cases, and there's a sweetness to it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a softness to it. It can still be well detailed and a lot of information, but it's an easy-going sound to it. You can take a solid-state amplifier, and you won't have that same sound to it, but you may have a lot more dynamics. The
Right.
impact and the punch is there. The bass really drives hard. So the solid states changes it completely. So if someone is looking for an amplifier for headphones, the first thing you got to do is, how efficient are my headphones? If it's an 85 dB headphone, you need a powerful amplifier. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
in the sense you need a couple watts, 3 watts, 4 watts, because they're small speakers. If it's high efficiency amplifier, then you can get away with a very small amplifier as far as power is concerned. Second question is, do I want something that's really dynamic, that has a lot of impact, or do I want something that's soft and mellow and easier to listen to? Look for tubes or look for solid states and see what they have. Read the reviewers from other people and see what they're basically saying. See if there's any triggers in there that you enjoy, that they're talking about also, that might indicate what direction to go in. There are a lot of companies that do make good, really good headphones amps out there. And it's really hard to say. You know, I can't tell you which one is the best one. All I can tell you is this is
Right.
the direction you're going to go in. We do the same thing to a certain degree. Fong is building a couple little amplifiers. One will be a solid state. One will have tubes in it. And there it is feeding two different channels. One that wants a softer, easier going sound. One that's looking for a little bit more of a dynamic sound. Match more towards what our drivers require to run them well. That's
Right.
the best I can really tell you as far as those are concerned.
Yeah. And then tubes is like a whole different, rabbit hole that you can go down, because, I know people that are like, I'm on my 45th set of different tubes, and they're like, they all sound different. And then I mix the front stage with the output thing. And then, you go and they're like, today we're going to do these. I'm like, wow. I mean, it's I don't know. It's almost like cooking.
Every tube is a little different, so it does create a little bit of difference in sound, and it is a rabbit hole. You can just spend more time worrying about the tubes than what you're listening to. And
yes, you can.
Yeah, you can. And I always caution people too, because you hear it different doesn't necessarily mean it's better.
Right. Right.
So if you run across something that you're having a good time, you go, this is really good, stick with it and enjoy the music and everything else, and let it sit for a while before you go sticking your nose into another, $30 to $120 investment for a tube. And I've been there. I know what it's like.
I'm with you. Let's say hi to Brolic Media, and I'm not sure if it's Brolic or Brolic. I'm never sure. But a really good guy, and he's helped me out in the past, so I'm glad that he's here watching the show tonight. And he said, I agree with this. It's the elements that comprise the presentation rather than the presentation itself, on the philosophy of of music. So glad to have you here with us this evening. One thing I wanted to touch on too before we move into Content Corner, and I love Content Corner, is and this isn't necessarily a HIFIMAN thing, but it's a phenomenon that happened. I don't know. This has probably been 5, 6, 7, 8 years, maybe 10 years ago now. Gosh, time flies. But it seemed like for me, I didn't see headphones in the past for a while. It's like at least from my point of view, I wasn't seeing them as much. And then the Beats came out, right?
Yep.
And then everybody had headphones again. And I think that at some level ignited a new passion around the concept of headphones, especially in younger crowds, because it became super cool. I mean, if you go way back, you'd have like the DJs with the headphones, and they were doing their stuff, and it was really cool. And things changed a little bit. But then Beats came out and they poured a lot of money into marketing, and then all of a sudden, I'd be traveling and I would never see anybody with headphones. And then everybody had a set of headphones around their neck. And it was just like, it felt to me like it was overnight. So I thought that was really cool. And, the Beat stuff's all right. I don't think of it as necessarily high end, but I think that it was really nice because it awoke that fire. And maybe that's what you said when you talked about younger people understanding that there is a better experience to be had, and really lit a fire again in this market. So I don't know. Did you see that? Was that, maybe that's just something that was just kind of isolated to my perception of the world. But was that a thing?
Yeah, I do. I'm not a fan of the Beats headphones, but it's just not my taste. But the fact that so many people started talking about it gave people the indication that there was something better out there.
Mm-hmm.
And you also saw other companies jump on the bandwagon real quick. Apple decided to come out with better little pods for their
Right.
phones, and then JBL came out with something, and all of a sudden, and so yeah, you're right. It came really quick. The other thing I think that drove it was the streaming services, because all of a sudden, Spotify is offering a high res option, and Cubase is offering a $24.96 option, and suddenly people go, well, what's that? Why is that? And they could hear a difference with what they have, but then all of a sudden, they're starting to realize everybody's talking about getting better headphones to listen to this better quality streaming, and I think that helped push things along really well too. So it was a combination of the whole industry jumping in on the bandwagon and moving everything forward. And again, like we talked about earlier, where we talked about people 40 and under all having some type of headphones. For the majority of these people, that's the only way they listen to music. They don't really have a stereo system at home.
Right.
That's their source of music. So it is predominant for them. They want to do something with their music. That's their goal, is to make it a little bit better, to enjoy themselves a little bit more while they're listening to it, whether it be at home, or on the subways, or on airplanes, or traveling, or while working and things like that. They just wanted something a little bit better, and the industry responded. They keep making things better and better.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I think with that thought, we're going to move on over to a section of the show that I like to call Content Corner. Now, let's take a break and stroll down to a cozy little place I like to call Content Corner. This is where we talk about all the cool content that we love to consume. And today, I'm going to talk about the 100. All right. So folks that are out there that haven't heard of the 100, this is a television show, and I have just started it. I'm about 8 episodes in, but I think this series ran for 6 years or 7 years. Maybe it was just 5. If anybody's out there in viewerland that knows how long it was on the air, on the air, gosh, can you even say that anymore? Let me know. But the show finally ended, and when it ended, that's when I said, I can finally watch this. Right? So I'm gonna get into it, because I got a little tired of, like, if you look behind me, you see all the books, and somebody will start a series, and then I'm waiting on this one dude. He wrote two books, and no, he wrote one book, and the second book is like still 7 years later, and he hasn't finished it. And then there's some authors that just never finished it, and they died. And I'm like, no, I'm gonna wait and see what happens with the 100. But the 100 is actually pretty good, and everybody knows I'm a big sci-fi, fantasy kind of guy when it comes to media. And this is a futuristic, roll the clock, forward like 150 years or something. And there was a big war on Earth, but people had went up to space to kind of shelter out the nuclear fallout. And now it's the story of what happens when they come back to Earth. So I'm watching that, and it's pretty good. I I do kind of draw a comparison with that and Lord of the Flies. So
Oh,
if people are familiar with Lord of the Flies, it's about these children that are kind of stranded and alone by themselves, and it's what happens, right? And the premise of the 100 is that there are these 100 juvenile prisoners on a space station. So folks are like 21 and under, I guess you'd say, and they were all condemned to death because all crimes on the space station were punishable by death, right?
oh
Because
wow.
they couldn't, support a prison population, right? So, to see if the Earth could support life again or not, they took these 100 kids and sent them down to the planet, right? And then shenanigans ensue. But so that's why I kind of think of it as Lord of the Flies, but set slightly in the future. So I've been checking that out, and that one's pretty good. A new show that I've just started to watch, and I'm watching this one with my wife actually, is called Debris. And Debris is another sci-fi-ish show. Well, it's more sci-fi-ish. And the premise of this one is that there's an alien spacecraft that passed through our solar system, but it had been damaged in some way or blown up or something. So as it passed by the Earth, its debris rain down and onto different places on the planet, and this technology, wherever it landed, makes all of these crazy things happen, right? So again, spaceship comes, stuff falls to the Earth, and shenanigans ensue. And I'm like, I think 3 episodes in on that one. And I think I'm going to stick with the 100 and put in the time to watch that one through. The jury's still out on Debris. If my wife chooses to watch it, though, I'll hang out with her because it's kind of fun to watch those together. But anyway, those are the two content items that I wanted to call out to folks today to check out. One new, one old, but hopefully both good. But Roger, what about you? Anything cycling in your orbit these days? Music, television, movies that's interesting that you'd want to call out to the folks?
Um, well, there's a couple of things I usually do. Usually at nighttime is when I get to play with my headphones. But what I'll do is I'll put on Spotify, and I'm just one of those that's always looking for new music. So I'll
Mm-hmm.
just sit there and go, "Oh, this is okay. Nah, nah. Okay, I'll listen to this one." And I've discovered some really good artists. There's a lady called Caro Emerald out of
Okay.
Europe. She's marvelous. Jack Savaretti, I think is the way you pronounce his last name. Another gentleman that I think is really, really good. Definitely worth following up on. Earl St. James. Rob Thomas came out with a new album.
Oh, Rob Thomas. Yeah, I like Rob
Yeah,
Thomas.
it's been really good. Um, I have, as we talked a little earlier, a nice theater here at home, so I have been watching some things. Um, Both my daughter and I have been into the Marvel series for the beginning, actually.
Right.
So WandaVision that came
Uh-huh.
out on Disney Plus was a blast. I don't know if you got a chance to see it.
Oh, I absolutely saw it. And it started out and it's like, what is this show doing? Right.
Yes.
But by the end of the series, it was okay. Now it's like a Marvel, like a movie, like you would normally watch. But they went through this evolution, and I don't know that I've seen anything ever do that. It was
No,
kind
me
of
neither.
cool.
I think I was really pleased how they're developing the characters in the series. I mean, they could have, to me, blown it really bad, but they answered a lot of questions. They developed the personalities really well. The new one, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, has been excellent. It's like every Friday we sit down and fire it up and go watch that and see how that's going. And again, the characters are developing really well. So that's been a lot of fun for me to watch that. And then the other thing that I'd spend some time is I've got a PlayStation 5 and I'll fire that up and
What are
spend
you
some
playing
time.
these days?
Right now I'm playing the another Assassin's Creed, the Valhalla.
Okay. Hmm.
I've played 4 or 5 of their shows. I like the open world concepts, so I've enjoyed those a lot. The Ghost of Tsushima, highly recommend that one. I played that all the way through, played all the side quests and everything else. That's one of the most beautiful games I've ever played. It's just
That's
scenery
awesome.
wise, story wise, everything. I think that really was an involving game. I enjoyed it tremendously. The Assassin's Creed, I'm a little early in that. It's not the traditional Assassin's Creed. The older ones were more of a stealth type thing. This is
Sure.
more of a, run in and raid type situation. I'm not used to that kind of play, so we'll see how it goes overall.
That's
So I
awesome.
just spend a lot of my time like that.
That's cool. That's cool. Audio Architects calls out. He says that he liked 100, and he says he thinks it's 6 seasons, but he also says the first 3 were the best, and then it goes a weird way after that. I guess I'll get to figure that out here pretty soon. And I agree that Octavia is a very good character so far in the show for a number of reasons. Then he also called out Falcon and Winter Soldier, and I'm only 2 episodes in on that one. I'm watching that one with my boys. So I've got a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old son, and that's right down our alley, right? So that's the good stuff. The good stuff. All right. I think we're going to put a fork in content corner, and we're going to move on to what I call the cleanup section of the show. This is where I get all my announcements out of the place and call to action. If you haven't subscribed yet, your mother's upset with you. It's time for you to take this into your own hands and, like a solid, responsible citizen of this country. I don't know if that's so horrible. Just subscribe. Come on, it's time. It's time. And I'll thank you for doing that. And remember, like and comment. Ding. Ring the bell. Upcoming projects. So I got this. And this is a GoPro Hero 9 Black, I think it is. So it's like the new one. And I don't have it handy, but I also got one of these things. So today I recorded my first video with this thing stuck on my head, unboxing a set of Triangle BR8 towers. And that was kind of interesting. I think it makes some people motion sick, but I'm going to give that a shot. And for some of the hands-on kind of stuff that I do, especially like when I'm like behind a cabinet installing a processor or AVR or some other component, it's kind of hard to get the camera in over your shoulder or to the side or something. And this thing I'm just going to stick on my head and just, there we go, man. It's like you're in there doing the work right along with me. So when I do this stuff, you'll be able to see. I'll also be able to take this and put it above this area straight down, so I can do some top-down views and have multi-camera. So like if I ever want to do like a live unboxing, I'll be able to take a product like a, like if I wanted to take these out of the box, I could just very easily do that in front of myself, and then have people kind of come along for the ride. And I think that's kind of fun when you're doing it, just spontaneously, right? It's not filmed and edited. People kind of get to see the whole effort of what it's like to actually experience opening this thing up, and not some edited version that's not necessarily real world, because sometimes, you can't get the packing open, and, I think that's kind of fun for people to experience too. So anyway, Aperion Audio is sending over their new concert towers, and I'll be creating some content around that. I'm really looking forward to that. These are pretty huge, and I think it's like a mid-tweeter mid with a couple of 8-inch mid bass drivers, I guess you'd call them, in there. Just beautiful speakers and great folks over there. This week's video is and it should drop on Friday, I think. And this is one that I've lagged on for a long time, so my apologies go out to Focus View. They sent over a screen, and I've done an assembly video, so you can kind of see how you put together the Focus View screen, kind of soup to nuts, taking it out of the box. And man, it comes in a wooden crate. I mean, this thing is For a screen that you can purchase and put together yourself, I mean, it's a really super nice experience. And I threw this thing up on the wall, and man, the contrast and the colors just leap off of this screen. And you know, it's at about the $2,000 price point. It's a really nice piece of PVC plastic, and this one's an AT perf screen as opposed to woven. I do a in-wall center channel behind my screen, so I always have to go AT, and I recommend everybody, if you can go that way, to go that way. It really, when you anchor that vocal into the center of the screen, it adds that extra layer of realism, or it lets you suspend disbelief a little bit more, however you want to think about it. It just really ups that experience. And this video will show you how to build one of these and kind of slap it on the wall if you want to. So looking forward to getting that one out into the public so folks can see what's going on. Next week's guest just canceled today. I'm looking at you, Kef. That's right, Kef. What's up with that? To make up for it, though, they're sending over their LS50 wireless 2s for me to review. So I'm looking forward to that. So I'll get to check those out. But next week we'll figure out who it is soon, but I can't tell you who it is right now. Oh man, I think I have talked all I can talk tonight. Roger, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate your time.
I appreciate it very much.
You're very welcome. And for folks that want more information about HIFIMAN, I'll have a link down below. It's pretty easy to find them. HIFIMAN, you just type it into Google and you'll find more information than you ever wanted. I would recommend going to the website, checking out the product mix. And one of my favorite things about the product mix there is that you can buy everything down, you know, from the cost of low hundreds to many thousands. So, you know, this isn't, you know, like a high end or a low end kind of product line. There's a good mix of products that will meet your budget and your requirement around the technology that you're looking for. And they just sound awesome. I mean, I've put it, I don't know, hundreds of hours into these headphones, and I just love these things. I mean, they're awesome. And you know, these are kind of the lower end models of the stuff that HIFIMAN produces. So if you're really looking for a good set of headphones, they got them.
All right. Thank you.
We got them. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching the show. Appreciate your time. And as I always say, we'll see you guys in the next video.
Good night.